The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
How's it going, family? I'm Myron, entrepreneur, father, and student of life. Welcome back to the Mindset Manual. This is where we don't just break down motivation, we build structure, discipline, and emotional intelligence, because success isn't random, it's intentional. And today we're talking about something every entrepreneur needs in their life: vacations. If you don't step away from your business will eventually start taking from you, taking your clarity, your patience, your creativity, even your relationships. You don't burn out because you're working hard. You burn out because you never reset. And today we're going to talk about something most entrepreneurs avoid: why rest is not a reward, it's a responsibility. Let's talk about what staying balanced really looks like. When you're building something that actually matters, clarity is everything. Balance is everything. Focus is everything. But being able to reset matters so much. When you're tired, when you're irritable, when you're not focused and you're off balance, every little task feels like a huge mountain to climb, when reality is really not that hard. It's your body and your mind that is worn out. Your skills are drained because your mind feels like it's walking through mud. That's when the reset is necessary. We all need it as entrepreneurs. We need that reset to really be successful and to keep our motivation and our energy up so we can be successful. It's hard, I know. I'm going to share a story about myself, a true story about my life over the years of being a solo entrepreneur to having over 40 employees working in my business. Trying to take vacations, trying to find the time to reset. It's never been easy, but it's been something that I had to force myself to do because I can see the results of taking those vacations and how I feel afterwards. I remember being a solo entrepreneur a long time ago. It was just me trying to run my business. I was doing internet business where I was building websites. It was, I went to web design school, learned how to build websites and graphic design. It was just me doing the design work all by myself. But I was doing a lot of websites. I mean, I was doing a tremendous amount of websites and designing stuff. I was taking the calls, the intake for the new clients, finding out what they wanted, doing the graphics, doing the development, the coding, doing everything. If they wanted a store, I was doing the store, everything. So it was a lot of work. One-man band is what it was at the time, one-man band. But, doing a lot of work, I was starting to get burnt out. We didn't have the AI and all that stuff like now. So it was strictly creating from your mind, what you could create from your mind. And my designs were starting to look very repetitive. Sites were starting to look very similar because I had just been working straight through 20 sites, 30 sites in a row without taking any breaks. And so I decided, hey man, I'm going to go out to Miami for the weekend, take some time off and just try to get my thoughts together. And I remember the first 2 days I was down there, I was cool, got to see the beach and hang out and, go out a little bit. But then I got that email where this client saying, hey man, I need an update on my site. I need to change some stuff. Pay you to take care of it. That was the beginning of the end of that vacation. I started to work on his website from my hotel room. Next thing you know, I was locked in for the full day. I had burnt the whole day out working on this guy's website. And I'm on vacation, mind you. So I was supposed to be relaxing and resetting. But yet, here I was working on his site, knowing I should have just been relaxing. So that was, me being a solopreneur. I couldn't step away from my business because I felt like my customers needed me, but not realizing I needed me. I needed me to be relaxed and reset so I could be better and acquire more customers because my work spoke for itself. But I didn't realize that I was young and that's just what I did. And that's probably what you do. And you're probably doing it right now when you go on vacations. As time goes on, I didn't realize that, but I knew something wasn't right. So I began to take little mini trips. 2 days here on the weekend just to get away, 3 days here just to get away, to see if I could stay away from work for more than, a couple of days without doing anything. And I started taking those mini trips. Sometime I would be in my mind like, oh my God, I need to get back to the office and get back to work. But those little mini trips actually helped me a lot to refocus myself and to just clear my mind. Sometimes I would go to the mountains to a cabin and just sit out and just enjoy nature. Sometimes I would go to the beach and party a little bit and enjoy the ocean. I would just do different things to relax myself. I remember over the years, I found a location out in like Boise, Idaho. It was really clean. People are really nice and the air was really great out there. And I would go out there and clear my and just enjoy the peace of that city, of a small city. And that became one of my places that I would fly out and just take a couple days and enjoy that. But I never could get into that full week away or 2 week away or month away from my business. I could never get myself to that level. Being a solopreneur, you run everything. So you have to do everything because that's everything. But when you become a business owner with multiple employees, those employees need to check in with you. So it becomes hard to step away because your employees want to check in with you. They need to ask you this. They need to ask you that. Everything seems like the house is on fire when actually it's not. They know the answers. They just need the reinforcement from you to say that, yeah, it's okay. But what I did later, as I started growing in my business and being an entrepreneur, I took a 7-day cruise, like a forced downtime, being on that cruise ship. And it was one of the greatest things for me. When I came back off of that trip, I was totally refreshed, totally ready to go, just totally at peace. And I had all these great ideas and all these great thoughts and wonderful things I came up with during that time. And I was just ready to get back to it. I was anxious, but not really anxious. I was actually in a peaceful state that, like, when I get back next week, I'm gonna relax myself for a day or two. When I get back to the office, instead of going straight back to work, I'm just going to take a day and just, unwind back in the office, get my mind, get my thoughts together, write out my task, and then I'm going to get started. So that was the beginning of me being able to successfully take a vacation without working. Now, fast forward later, years of businesses and doing different things, taken a lot of vacations where I actually vacation without working. Yeah, occasionally, can't lie, I'm going to be 100. Sometime you're going to peep at that email. You're going to glance at that text, but you have to put the tools in place to where they don't alert you unless it's an emergency. Turn on your autoresponder for vacation. Hey, I'm on vacation until this date. I will not be checking my email or voicemail during this period. And people know when they send you that email, he's on vacation or you're on vacation, and they don't expect a response. And that's how I learned to manage my business better and take control of the situations by turning on that autoresponder, putting on do not disturb, or putting my office on away on my virtual phone system. I can set it to away where you can't reach me. Tools like that for myself, for my sanity, for my peace of mind, so I can come back stronger. But like I was saying, as I got bigger and I became a bigger entrepreneur with more employees, I started putting people in place, a manager here for this department, a manager there for that department, and let them run their departments. And when I get ready to go on vacation, I brief them on everything. We have meetings and we go through all the things that may come up while I'm on my vacation. I truly do not want to be bothered unless it's an emergency. And these are what the emergencies are. And I would give them a list. So as time went on, like just a couple summers ago, I geared up to take a 2-month vacation to Asia. And I was able to do that. Mind you, I have 40 employees, 7 different managers over different departments. And I took this 2-month vacation to Asia. I traveled all over Asia for this time, starting in Japan, ending in Thailand, and over a 2-month span. And during that period, I didn't check my email. I didn't really respond to too many messages on WhatsApp or anything like that. Only people that were able to contact me were the managers, and they actually did a really good job of not reaching out to me during that period. They handled everything unless it got to a point where they couldn't answer the question. Then they would reach out to me with a gentle message on WhatsApp, and then I would answer it. But for the most part, it was a very calm and relaxed vacation for me because I had the things in place. And looking back on that, that was one of the greatest things that I did for myself and my business, because when I came back, I was able to launch some more apps that I had on my mind. I had designed them in my head. When I came back, I was refreshed and I was ready to go. I became less irritable. I spent a lot of time with my family. So I had that part of my life that I felt like I was missing, not getting to spend enough time with them. I actually got to spend a lot of time with them. So coming off of that trip, I just felt like a new person, and it really balanced me out and allowed me to enjoy the fruits of my labor, the success of my business by being able to provide that for my family and for myself. And so that's what you have to do for yourself. You can't burn yourself out, always working, never taking any breaks, and not enjoying yourself. And that goes into the vacations, your lifestyle, all these different things. Grind, and never enjoy it. And then next thing you know, you look up and life is over with. It's really short. That's a saying people say, life is short. It truly is. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Work hard, play hard, but don't work too hard that you don't get a chance to enjoy it in time. You keep saying, I'm going to do it tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. But that was my story. I wanted to share that with you guys, and I hope you can take that in consideration from somebody like myself who's been an entrepreneur for a very long time. So let's get back to the lesson now. So let me leave you with this. You didn't start your business just to feel trapped by it. You didn't choose entrepreneurship to be stressed, overwhelmed, and mentally exhausted every day. You chose this path for freedom, for control, for a better life, for you and your family. But here's the truth. If you never step away, you will lose the very thing you built it for. Your business needs your vision, but your vision requires space. And sometimes the most productive thing you can do is step back, breathe, and reset. Because a clear mind makes better decisions. A rested leader builds stronger systems. And a balanced entrepreneur plays the long game. So don't wait until your body forces you to rest. Don't wait until life starts pulling you away. Schedule your reset like your success depends on it, because it does. Thank you for tuning in to the Mindset Manual with me, Myron Williams. If this message hit you hard, please like, subscribe, and share this with another entrepreneur who needs this. And as always, stay balanced, stay focused, and keep practicing that emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you work, it's still not enough? You're putting in the hours, you're doing what you're told, you're staying disciplined, but the results, they don't match the effort. Here's the uncomfortable truth. There's millions of hardworking people in the world. Many of them are still struggling financially. Hard work alone doesn't build wealth. And if you don't understand what does, you can spend your entire life exhausted and still stuck.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Hi, family. Welcome to the Mindset Manual, the place where we talk about the harsh truths most people avoid, but the truths that can actually change your life. I'm Myron, entrepreneur, father, and student of life. And today we're talking about one of the harsh truths about success, the myth that hard work alone creates success. This is episode 5 of my 8-part series on the harsh truths about success. Please click that like and subscribe button so you can continue listening to my real life experiences. So now let's get into the topic for today. Hard work matters, but effort without direction leads to exhaustion. Success requires learning, strategy, and adaptation. Let me tell you a little story about when I started my very first serious business when I was around 21 years old. That was my very first serious business. So I was going to college out in Alabama, studying business management and accounting, just trying to be a businessman. What I always wanted to be was a businessman. So if you want to be a businessman, of course, you got to study business. So I was going to school, doing really well, making really great grades, but I was just wondering, what was I going to do with this business degree? What was it going to do for me? And, back then, hip hop music, I should say, was starting to really take off. You had labels coming up like Bad Boy Entertainment, and it was Death Row. And in the South, we had No Limit Records and Cash Money Records. And that movement, or those movements from all of those labels, really sparked my attention. They really had my mind really going like, man, this is great. These guys are from the same type of place that I'm from. They're from the same type of background that I'm from and surroundings. And if they can do it, why can't I do it? I'm thinking like, I could do what they do. I'm a businessman or aspiring to be a businessman. I'm in college. I heard some of Master P's story about his college and P. Diddy's stuff about his college. I heard these stories like, yeah, I went to college and I learned this. I got into the business and, I left college to pursue my music industry stuff. And I'm thinking like, well, I've learned a lot in college. These guys are from the same place. They got the same drive. I have the same drive that they have. Why not go for it? But the problem was I felt like, well, I'm stuck in Alabama. No knock on Alabama, but the music business isn't that great in Alabama at the time. At that time, it wasn't really that great. Music business wasn't anything. None existed in Alabama at that time. So I'm thinking like, where can I go still close to where I was? They want to go too far out of the South. I like the South. And where could I go? I was hearing at that time, Outkast was coming up and the Dungeon Family was coming up, and they had their own Atlanta movement going on. So I'm thinking, hey, Atlanta's right up the street. Let's just go to Atlanta. So that's what I did. I was like my 20th birthday, I remember. My 21st birthday, I told my mom, right after my birthday, I'm packing up, I'm going to Atlanta, and I'm going to pursue this music stuff. And she was like, boy, you crazy. You going all the way to Atlanta to chase some music stuff, and you don't even know anything about music. You don't even play any instruments. You haven't played the piano since you was like 6 years old. I'm like, yeah, it's not about me being a musician. I'm not trying to be a musician. I'm trying to be an executive. And, like Barry Gordy, that's one of the names that she would recognize was Barry Gordy. She wouldn't recognize Master P or P. Diddy, but she recognized Barry Gordy. She's like, Barry Gordy, that's Motown. That's huge, Yeah, I know, but there's a new level of music now. It's the Southern music, and the labels are coming together is what I was trying to explain to her. But let me fast forward a little bit. So I packed up my stuff. I went to Atlanta to pursue my dreams, pursue this. I wanted to stay in college so I can continue to learn about business, but I wanted to get closer to the music scene, which was Atlanta. So I got in school in Atlanta. I started making connections around the city. I started going to the nightclubs and going to the DJ events and going to different places and different concerts and gaining access and gaining connections and talking to different people and learning how to connect with this industry and understand how it worked. And so I got a lot of connections. As I was coming up through the ranks in Atlanta, I was approached by some guys about doing a music video show. Back then, I think it was I would compare it to like Rap City or one of those shows like that, where artists would come on and you would interview them and then you would play their videos and talk about their new music and stuff like that. During that time, there were a lot of new artists coming out, and there were a lot of artists trying to come out of the South because Outkast had sparked that whole movement. So the labels were looking for a way to duplicate Outkast. So they were looking for a lot of artists. They were looking for labels that could duplicate that sound and that look. So my goal was to search out an artist like that. That's what they were looking for. So let me search out some artists that sound like them, look like them, move like them, and try to get access to to the labels. But what better way to do that when these guys approached me about the show was I would have access to artists that were already on the rise, had already signed deals, and I would also be in the underground and stuff. So I could talk to them about the music and learn about the music. So I accepted the gig. And I started doing interviews with different artists. We had a lot of artists on the Nelly and 8 Ball and MJG and all these different guys, 3 6 Mafia, all these different guys, UGK. We had all these underground artists that I love on the show. And a lot of these guys were super down to earth. So they told me a lot about the business, how it worked, all the things they had to do to get into the business and to get a deal and all this stuff. So I learned a lot from within the industry, more than I was learning from the college. The college was talking about the legal aspects of it and the accounting and stuff like that. But the artist was telling me about the show business part, the show and the business. And I learned a lot about that. So I took those two things and put it together. I started my first label. I started going out looking for studios at that time. So I found a couple producers that would work with me at within my budget. And those producers start telling me about different talent shows that you can go to and, scout talent. It's like, that's a great way to find artists. They're doing their performances, they're doing stuff like that. And you just talk to them. A lot of them are hungry. They'll work with you. So I went through it. I went to a lot of shows. I talked to a lot of artists. I went to a lot of their studio sessions and their performances and just trying to find the right fit for what I wanted to do with my label. And trust me, it was a lot of work, but I continued to work. I continued to do the show, market the show, promote the show, meet the artist, go. I was basically sleeping 2-3 hours a day. I was always running, always working, always doing my stuff. And it seemed like it was not going anywhere. It's like running in mud. You can't go anywhere fast. It was just always a constant grind every day. So I do the show. I interview an artist. I would play their videos, help edit the show, do all these things. And then later on, I would go out with the artist. Going out with artists to hang out and meet people, their industry contacts and stuff like that. So I had that part down of connecting with the artists and moving through that. But that was just only part of the work. The work was to build a label. And in that process, I'm like, okay, well, I'm with the artist. I'm learning all the business. Finding the artist right now and getting the artist off the ground isn't going to be easy. It's going to require a lot more money than I anticipated. So I said, let me take a step back. I did a lot of work, but I hadn't signed any artists yet. So I took a step back. I used the show, which was the platform for connecting with the artists. I used the show to get to the labels in another way, build a relationship with the label. So I started telling the labels, hey, I'll showcase your artists on my show. I'll play their video and I will market their album in the streets of Atlanta. I had a nice street team. So I put together a great street team so we could put out a lot of flyers and posters and demos and stuff at all the events in Atlanta because Atlanta had a lot going on. So I would sell the label a package on promoting their artists in the city of Atlanta and getting on the show. And they ate it up. But what it also did for me was gave me a lot of connections with Def Jam and Sony and Island Records and Arista and all these different labels. Epic Records, they spent a lot of money with me and I had a lot of connections in the industry. So I was working really hard. Next, what did that lead to though? I started promoting parties around the colleges, which the labels really love. They wanted that college access. So that in itself helped me build a brand for my label because I was promoting the parties under my brand. So as the college people saw my brand just for a party, and then I would bring an artist. My goal in my mind was to brand recognition. The college kids will know that I throw the best parties. When I release my first artist, they're going to know, oh yeah, this guy, his stuff is always live. His parties are live, so his music is going to be live. A lot of work. Those parties were a lot of work. That promotion was a lot of work. All of it was a lot of work. But I started to get burnt out. I started feeling like I'm doing all of this. I'm making money, but I'm literally killing myself. I'm up all night, I'm partying, I'm drinking, doing other things I shouldn't be doing. And I'm just overworking. At this time, I think I had been in the industry maybe about 4 years. So I was, 24 at the time, going on 25. Great. I had bought a house. I had my own house, bought my first house, all that. I had a nice car, nice clothes, nice things and stuff like that. It was great. But I felt myself mentally burning out from working so hard. And that's a part of the grind. That's one of the harsh truths about success. There's a lot of work involved to get to that next level. I mean, I was becoming exhausted from all of those hours and all those different things I was doing or trying to do. I had a semi-strategy of what I was trying to do, but I didn't have a clear path to success. And it led to my exhaustion and it led to me being burnt out. and I had to figure something else out. So I started to slow down on the parties a little bit. I said, let me get back into what my goal was, which was to launch the label. So I started more so focusing on submissions. So I put out ads in all of the local music magazines and newspapers. I put out an ad that I was looking for artists. I was looking for talent. And you can submit your demo to me and I would listen for it. Let the music come to me instead of me going to the music. That became my new strategy, working smarter, not working harder. Let the music come to me. Let it all come into my office. Open it up with me and my assistant, and we listen to it and find what we like. We had the pictures right there. We had the music right there. We had their contact information. So no longer were we going out. And by this time I had saved some money up. So I had the ability to actually, if I found an artist, to put some money behind them. And mind you, I was still doing the show. I still had my street team, but I had other people running the stuff. I only had to appear on the show every now and then and do my special segments with some of the bigger artists. I had some other people doing some of the other interviews, and I had a street team running all of the promotions. So it gave me time to focus on the music, which I wanted to do. And eventually I did. I focused on it, found a couple artists. I found an R&B singer that I like. She had a really nice look, that Atlanta look, kind of like that Total, Escape, TLC type of vibe. She had that. So I liked her. I worked with her in the studio and I ended up signing. So after I signed her, I found a group that was kind of like on the edge of like the Goody Mob, but they also had like a kind of a Onyx feel. If anybody remembers Onyx, they had that both feel. One guy was from New York, one guy was from Texas, and they kind of had this little thing going together. So I listened to their music, went to the studio with them, went to their studio in their house and, vibe with them, and I signed them. So I had two groups, an R&B group, R&B artists and this rap group, good group. All right, I'm like, I got two artists. Let's go. Let's hit the studio. Let's go. I had made all these connections with all these different studios in the cities, all these producers in the city. And I'm like, hey, I got my people now. I'm going to come. They're like, yeah, come on in, man. We got you. We'll set you up with a package and let you get to work. So I did. Got to work. I started going to the studio with these artists. We started working on their albums, working on their image, working on their stage presence, all these different things. I was burning a tremendous amount of money trying to manage these artists. Because mind you, these artists have their own problems. They got their own bills. They got their baby mamas. They got their baby daddies. They got all these different things. And me being a young man, 25 years old, man, I got my own stuff I'm trying to do. I'm not daddy. I don't have any kids. It's a lot of pressure for a young man to do. So I kept working and I kept working. But eventually all that work on the label, I never actually got an album out. The R&B singer, she got pregnant with a child. That was going to be at least a year and a half of her being down, having a baby. She, her voice was changing, her look was changing, everything. So that was pretty much shelved. That was pretty much shelved. My male group, they were good. They were a little hardcore. They end up getting into it over a woman, and that group broke up. So it turned out all that work, 8-9 months to a year working with these artists, all this time in the studio, all this money that I spent in the studio was all for nothing. Pictures I had done little mini videos with them, all this different stuff. I had no artists, so I couldn't even shop a deal with the labels because I had no artists. The groups were basically done. So all that work was done and it failed. And I'm not ashamed to say that it failed. It gave me a great learning experience. It was a very expensive learning experience, but it was. But the reason I failed, when I turn back the clock and I think about why I failed at the music business, in that area of the music business, and I was successful in other parts of the music industry, as I'll talk about in some of my other stories, I went on to manage artists, big artists, and tour with artists and do all that. But my label attempt failed. The reason it failed is because I didn't have a strategy. I didn't have a clear strategy of what I was doing with the label. I wasn't focused. I had an idea, but I didn't have a strategy. I didn't lay out the path to success. I was doing a whole lot of other things, and I never put together a clear, direct strategy. How much money it's going to cost? Am I going to focus on one artist, two artists, or three artists? Am I going to try to focus on Atlanta? Am I going to focus on radio? Am I going to focus on this? I didn't have a clear strategy to do anything with the label. And that's why I failed. You want to start a business, you got to put together a strategy, a method of operation direct to where you're trying to get to success. Don't stray off into all these other little things or these other little paths. Don't stray off. Stay focused on the goal. You're going to get exhausted if you start straying off into these other things. Like I was burnt out. I did so many different things. I got burnt out. I needed to keep a straight path to success, a label with an artist, get the album done, get a video done, shop it to a label. That was my strategy. Instead, I had multiple artists, managing multiple personalities, promoting over here, promoting over there, only putting about 30% of my time and energy into my label. My other time was into my show, into promoting these groups for the other labels, out in the night, just enjoying, the entertainment business. I wasn't clearly focused and I didn't have a clear strategy. Don't make the same mistake that I did, especially with the music business. You have to be ultra focused on what you're trying to do. So success requires learning, strategy, and adaptation. Hard work opens the doors, but strategy decides which door you walk through. Hey guys, I want to say thank you for joining me on the Mindset Manual. It's been a pleasure to share my stories with you. I appreciate you for listening. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. Would you please do so now? And if you know anybody that needs to hear this story, please share it with them. I love them to join the family and be a part of this community. Stay tuned. Next week, we're going to do episode 6. Part 6 is about your habits or writing your future. Thank you for tuning in. Stay blessed, stay balanced, and keep practicing that emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Are truths most people avoid, but the truths that can actually change your life. I'm Myron, entrepreneur, father, and student of life. And today we're talking about one of the harsh truths about success. This is episode 7 of my 8-part series on the harsh truths about success. I want you to follow me on this journey of real life experiences because I've lived this more than once. I talked myself out of opportunities that I should have taken advantage of. I call fear being responsible. I've delayed my moves I should have made, and maybe you have too. So let's talk about it. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and share this page with somebody who needs to hear it. Now let's get into it. Fear often sounds like being responsible. Fear rarely says, I'm afraid. It says, let me wait. Fear sounds mature. It sounds cautious. It sounds intelligent. And that's why it fools ambitious people like you. Because high performers don't struggle with laziness. They struggle with over-calculating, analyzing, rehearsing, delaying. And sometimes that delay has nothing to do with wisdom. It's fear protecting your comfort. There's a difference between thoughtful planning and hiding. Fear often sounds like it's being responsible. Fear rarely says, I'm afraid. It says, let me wait. Fear sounds mature. It sounds cautious. And that's why it fools ambitious people like me and you. Because high performers don't struggle with laziness. They struggle with over-calculating, analyzing, rehearsing, delaying. And sometimes that delay has nothing to do with wisdom. It's fear protecting your comfort. How fear disguises itself. Fear wears many costumes. It shows up as perfectionism. I'll lunch when it's flawless. It shows up as comparison. I can't compete with them. It shows up as false humility. I'm probably not ready. It even shows up as logic. The market might turn. People might not respond. What if it fails? But let me ask you, what if it works? Fear almost never asks the question because fear is obsessed with protecting you from loss, not helping you pursue growth. Here's my personal lesson about fear, something I learned. I've had moments where I thought I was being strategic, but I really was hesitating, holding back my vision, waiting too long to act, second guessing moves I already knew I had already planned out and I knew would work. But I learned something. Clarity rarely comes from over planning. It comes from action. Movement creates understanding. Momentum creates confidence, but fear wants confidence first. Growth says, move anyway. Here's the cost of calling fear wisdom. Fear doesn't usually destroy dreams dramatically. It delays them quietly, and delay compounds. One postponed opportunity becomes two, becomes years, become regret. And people call it circumstances when it was really indecision. How to test fear versus wisdom. Ask yourself, is caution protecting me or preserving my comfort? Am I gathering information or am I stalling? Is my concern based on facts or imagined outcomes? Am I preparing or avoiding commitment? That self-audit can expose a lot. Courage isn't certainty. Courage doesn't mean feeling ready. It feels uncomfortable, uncertain, exposed. That's normal. You don't wait for fear to disappear. You move when it whispers. It's time to replace delay with action. When fear shows up, make a move. Take the next step. Make the call. Send the proposal. Publish the idea. Test the offer. Go ahead and start before you feel 100% complete, because action reveals the truth. So let me leave you with this. Fear doesn't destroy dreams loudly. It delays them quietly, and a quiet delay can cost you years. Don't let logic be the language fear uses to keep you small. It's time for you to start moving, testing, adjusting, and growing. If this episode has helped you think differently, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. I'm Myron for the Mindset Manual, entrepreneur, father, and student of life. I appreciate you tuning in. Next week, we're going to cover episode 8 of The Harsh Truths About Success. As always, stay balanced, stay focused, and keep practicing that emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Fastest way to lose control of your life is to react to everything. Here's a harsh truth most people never learn. Not every battle is meant to be fought. Some distractions are designed to pull you off your purpose. And every time you react to something small, you may be creating a setback much bigger than the original problem. One emotional response can cost you your peace, can cost you your focus, can cost you your relationships, cost you your opportunities. And sometimes the strongest move you can make is to not move at all. No response, no reaction, no explanation, just discipline. Today, I want to show you why ignoring the wrong things might be the life hack that protects everything you've been trying to build.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Welcome to the Mindset Manual, the place we talk about the hard truths that most people avoid, but the truths that can actually change your life. I'm Myron, entrepreneur, father, and student of life. And today we're talking about a skill that will elevate your mindset, your business, and your peace instantly. Learning when to say nothing. But right now, I need you to say something by hitting that like and subscribe button. Now let's get into it. Reaction is a loss of control. Every time you react emotionally, you're giving someone else control over your behavior. Think about it. Somebody sends a message, you instantly respond. Somebody disrespects you, you feel the need to prove something. Somebody doubts you, you rush to explain. That's not power, that's emotional dependency. because now your mood, your actions, your energy are being dictated by something external. As a man, as a father, as an entrepreneur, you cannot afford that. Not everything deserves a response. Here's a hard truth. Everything does not deserve your attention. But we live in a world that conditions you to respond to everything. Notifications, comments, opinions, negativity. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your entire day reacting instead of building. Let me say that again. Reacting instead of building. Every time you engage with something meaningless, you're stealing time from something meaningful. And most people don't realize ignoring is not a weakness. Ignoring is discipline. The power of silence. Silence is one of the most powerful tools you have because silence does a few things. It protects your peace. It preserves your energy, and it forces other people to sit with their own behavior. See, when you don't respond, you don't give fuel to the situation. You don't escalate it. You don't validate it. You let it die. And a lot of things in your life don't need to be solved. They need to be starved. I'll tell you about some things that happened in my life. A story about how I was beefing with some of my friends, and instead of staying quiet, I fed into some of those emotions. I said things that I probably shouldn't have said when I should have just kept it to myself. But because I'm working on my emotional intelligence and I'm building it, things happen. People know your triggers, especially people that's known you a long time. They know how to say things to trigger you to get a response from you. Typically, I'm the calmest, coolest person in the room. It's hard to get a rise out of me. I've had relationships with women that struggled being with me because it was hard to get any type of toxicity or anger out of me. Yeah, I may be angry in some kind of way of something they're said, but I wouldn't allow them to know that. I will control my power, and that's my emotional intelligence. I've been very good at controlling my emotional outbursts and my reactions to people. But somebody that you care about, somebody that's known you for a long time, somebody that's set on getting a reaction out of you, they know how to hit your triggers, and it's your responsibility to control those triggers. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. We all have our own feelings. So there's going to be those moments where somebody triggers you and you're going to react. Don't be hard on yourself for doing that. I've done it. I've reacted when I knew I shouldn't have. And then I'll beat myself up for days and weeks later saying I shouldn't have even reacted. I shouldn't have fed into it. It's just about the emotional intelligence. That's why we're here on this podcast, trying to get stronger and stronger emotionally so we can handle any situation when it comes up like that. But, I was beefing with some of my friends over something really small, but as men, it became this long, drawn out thing, tit for tat, on text messages, through friends or through group chats and things like that. In reality, the whole time, even though it took us 3 years to reconcile, I should have just stayed silent. I shouldn't have said anything. Every time some negativity came my way, I shouldn't have said anything. I should have just sat back. And I think that beef would have ended a lot sooner if nobody had have said anything negative toward the other person. We could have eventually crossed paths and talked it out like we eventually did and resolved that, because I reacted, they reacted, I reacted to that, they reacted to that. We just kept going back and forth with reacting to each other. And because, like I said, at that point, once you say something, once somebody says something to you and you say anything back, now you're emotionally invested in that drama. You've given some power away and you got to try to get it back. That's just nature. That's just how you work. You're going to try to pull that power back from them saying something to you and making you say something back to them. You're going to try to rush and get it back. Don't say anything. That's the easiest way to avoid being drained or giving away your power. Just don't say anything. Let that person sit in whatever they said to you. Why aren't they saying anything? Why aren't they saying anything back? I said this. I know that's a weak spot for them. You're stronger than that, and let them figure it out. Eventually, they'll come back around and realize they messed up, and now they'll be sorry and want to talk to you about it. So it's just about practicing this stuff, and this is what this podcast is about. That's why I ask you guys to tune in every week. I'm just talking about different things, life experiences. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm a real person, a father, entrepreneur, and a student of life because I've done so many things. I've been in so many different uh, businesses and so many different situations. Right now, I'm doing this podcast. I'm 50 years old. So I've experienced a lot of different things. And I want people to watch this and learn from it, especially younger people, 25, 30. Don't make some of the mistakes that I made and avoid some of these setbacks by being emotional intelligence and not making some of these mistakes. And you can better your life and better your business because now you have a focus and somebody like me that can tell you real life stories. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just trying to help you. And so you can help the next person and so on and so on. It's called paying it forward. You pay it forward to the next person. I pay it forward to the next person. And it just keeps going on. The circle of karma is blessings keep coming your way. And that's what it's all about. And that's why I'm here. So let's continue on with the lesson and we'll pick up there. Why people struggle to ignore things. Let's be real. Ignoring is hard because your ego wants to respond. Your pride wants to defend. Your emotions wants to be heard. But discipline says, this doesn't deserve my energy. And that's the difference between people who grow and people who stay stuck. One reacts to everything. The other chooses carefully what deserves attention because the attention is currency and either you're investing it or you're wasting it. When to ignore versus when to act. Now, let's be clear. This isn't about being passive. This is about being intentional. There are moments when you should respond, when something aligns with your purpose, when something requires leadership, when something moves life forward. But everything else, distractions, negativity, petty conversations, people projecting their insecurities onto you, ignore it because your focus should be on building, not on battling. Let me leave you with this. Every reaction costs you something: time, energy, focus. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your life responding to things that never deserve your attention. So the next time something tries to pull you out of your zone, pause. Ask yourself, does this deserve my energy? And the answer is no. Don't react. Don't respond. Just ignore. Because your peace is too expensive to be given away for free. Thank you for tuning in to the Mindset Manual with me, your host, Myron Williams. If this message hit you hard, make sure you like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. I would love to have them join the community. So until next time, stay balanced, stay focused, and keep practicing that emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Most people think music is harmless background noise. I don't. I think some of the music people consume every day is quietly shaping their mindset, shaping their patience, shaping their focus, even shaping their emotional stability. And if sound affects state and state affects performance, then what you listen to may be affecting your results more than you realize. Today, let's talk about it.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Welcome to the Mindset Manual, the place we talk about the hard truths most people avoid, but the truth that can actually change your life. I'm Myron, entrepreneur, father, and student of life. Today, we're going to be discussing how your emotional state influences how you show up in business, relationships, and life. This is a great conversation. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button so you can watch and tune in to future episodes. Now let's get into our topic. Music is emotional nutrition. We talk a lot about protecting what we eat, healthy food, clean water, better fuel. But what about emotional fuel? What are you feeding your mind? Because music feeds emotion. Every lyric carries a suggestion. Every rhythm creates energy. Every repeated message reinforces something: confidence, sadness, anger, peace, scarcity, hope, something. Music truly influences your mind without you even knowing it. Now, what you feed yourself repeatedly often becomes familiar. There are days when calm Instrumental music sharpens my thinking. It slows my internal noise. It makes me more deliberate. And there are sounds that can create restlessness for me, speed up my nervous system, pull my focus apart. That isn't random. That's influence. If you feed your body junk food every day, you would expect consequences, right? Music can nourish your mind or clutter it. And many people are consuming emotional clutter. Your playlist creates patterns. Repeated sounds creates patterns. Patterns become habits. Habits influence identity. If you constantly listen to music rooted in revenge, hostility, chaos, and emotional instability, do you think that leaves any impression that's good for you? Because repetition trains, and whatever is rehearsed long enough starts feeling normal. And what feels normal often goes unquestioned. Sometimes people call something their vibe when it's actually conditioning. That's dangerous because you may be reinforcing emotional states you're trying to overcome. Trying to build inner peace while constantly feeding agitation. Trying to increase your discipline while feeding distraction. Trying to elevate self-worth while absorbing lyrics built on lack. That's conflict. And internal conflict drains your energy. Your playlist may be helping your future or quietly resisting it. High performers use state management, and sound is a part of state management. Athletes know this. Creators know this. Even retailers know this. Music affects energy, and energy affects execution. I use different music intentionally. Deep focus music for strategic thinking, calm music for writing, uplifting music for movement, silence for reflection. That is using sound as a tool, because if sound shifts mood, it can shift output. And if it shifts output, it also affects results. Ask yourself, what music do you play before difficult work? What do you hear while driving? What do you let enter your mind in the morning? Because your atmosphere affects your performance, and performance affects your outcome. This is deeper than entertainment. This is emotional architecture. It's time to audit your soundtrack. I challenge you to do something simple for 1 week. Audit your soundtrack. For just 1 week, pay attention to how certain music leaves you feeling. After listening, do you feel clear or scattered, calm or agitated? That awareness matters because emotional intelligence begins with noticing what affects you, noticing what elevates you, noticing what drains you. Most people manage time, but they do not manage emotional inputs. Most people manage time, but they do not manage emotional inputs. That's a blind spot. Protecting your mind is protecting your future. I want you to create some categories that you listen to. Recovery music, reflection music, motivation music, your faith music, work music, and your workout music. Different categories for different situations, and take note of how they make you feel. Build playlists that support who you want to become. Use music strategically, not passively, because the soundtrack around you can either support discipline or support disorder. So choose wisely. So let me leave you with this. The soundtrack around you can become the soundtrack within you. And that inner soundtrack influences how you think, how you react, how you lead, and how you live. It's time to protect what enters your spirit, because music can help you regulate your state or quietly disrupt it. Choose your emotional nutrition carefully, because what you feed daily, you will often become. Thank you for tuning in to the Mindset Manual with me, Myron Williams. I appreciate you sharing your time with me, and hopefully this episode hit you hard. If so, go ahead and like and subscribe and share this channel with someone who needs it. I would love to have them join the community. So until next time, as always, stay balanced, stay focused, and keep practicing your emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual, with Myron Williams.
Let me ask you something. Has a single email ever hijacked your entire day? One message, one comment, one opinion, and suddenly your focus is gone. Your energy is off, and now you're questioning everything you built. Or maybe someone criticized your business, and even though you smiled in the moment, you've been replaying that conversation in your head ever since. Yeah, I know the feeling. But here's what most entrepreneurs never realize. The moment you stop taking business personally is the exact moment you start operating at a higher level. More clarity, better decisions, unshakable focus. And today, I'm going to show you how to make that shift.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to the Mindset Manual with me, your host, Myron Williams, father, entrepreneur, and student of life. Today, we're going to be discussing how building your business, people will doubt you, people will criticize you, and sometimes people will straight up misunderstand your vision. How do you stay mentally strong when all the noise starts coming your way? That's what this episode is about. We're continuing our breakdown of the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and today we're talking about agreement number 2. Don't take anything personally. Now, this agreement right here, this is emotional armor for entrepreneurs. We're on the road to 20,000, so hit that like and subscribe button for me. Your support is much appreciated. Let me tell you a quick story. Early in my entrepreneurial journey, I had a client cancel a contract we had been working on for weeks. And I remember thinking, man, what did I do wrong? I replayed every conversation, every email, every detail. And the crazy part, weeks later, I found out the real reason. Their company had a budget freeze because their sales numbers dropped that quarter, and nothing to do with me. Nothing. But I spent days stressing over something that was never about me in the first place. And that right there is where most entrepreneurs lose their mental energy. We assume everything is about us. In the 4 agreements, Ruiz explains something powerful. He says, nothing other people do is because of you. At first, that sounds crazy. But once you understand it, it changes how you move in business. Because everybody you deal with is operating inside their own world, their stress, their deadlines, their pressure, their fears. So when someone reacts emotionally to you, most of the time, you're not seeing the real issue. You're seeing their internal pressure leaking out. Ruiz calls this the meiote, because the chaos in people's mind, and trust me, the business world is full of it. Think about these few situations. A client sends you an angry email. Your boss micromanages everything. A competitor starts trash talking your product. Our first reaction, we take it personally. But when you step back and think about it, the client might be getting pressure from their boss. That manager might be scared of losing their job. That competitor might feel threatened by you. So their stress becomes your problem only if you accept it. And most people accept it without even realizing it. Now, here's the twist most people don't talk about. This agreement doesn't just apply to criticism. It also applies to praise. And this is where a lot of entrepreneurs get trapped. Because when somebody compliments you, your ego loves it. Man, your business is amazing. You're a genius. You're the best consultant we've ever worked with. Feels good, right? But here's the danger. If you believe praise too deeply, you also believe criticism too deeply. And now your confidence depends on other people. One day the market loves you. The next day somebody online says you're overrated. And suddenly your confidence is shaking. Now that's not power, that's emotional dependency. Real entrepreneurs develop something different: internal validation. Your confidence comes from your process, your discipline, your preparation, your work ethic, not from somebody clapping for you. So when praise comes, you appreciate it. When criticism comes, you evaluate it. But neither one controls your mindset. And that's real mental strength. Let me give you a practical technique you can use immediately. I call it the refused gift. Imagine someone walks up and hands you a bag of trash. If you grab it, now it's your problem. But if you refuse it, the trash stays with them. Emotions work the same way. Someone sends an angry message, someone criticizes your work, someone questions your vision. You have two choices: accept the emotional baggage or refuse it. When you refuse it, you stay calm. You analyze the facts, you solve the problem. That's leadership. So let me leave you with this. When you're building something meaningful, a business, a career, a legacy for your family, people will always have an opinion. Some will support you, some will doubt you, some will criticize you. But here's the shift. None of that is your responsibility. Only your response is. Because the moment you start internalizing every opinion, your clarity is lost. You hesitate, you shrink, and you can't afford that. Not where you're going. So here's how to protect your mindset in real time. Separate the facts from the feelings. Ask yourself, is this feedback useful or just emotional garbage? Pause before you react. Give yourself space so you can respond with strategy, not ego. Extract the lesson. Ignore the delivery. Even poorly delivered criticism can contain valuable insight. Stay anchored to your vision. If it doesn't align with where you're going, it doesn't deserve your energy. Because at the end of the day, this is your mission, your timeline, your responsibility to execute. And the more emotionally disciplined you become, the more dangerous you become in a good way. Comfort protects today, but emotional discipline builds tomorrow. If this message helped you shift your perspective, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that share button with someone who may need this. Until next time, stay balanced, stay focused, and keep practicing that emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.